and turn on. Alright guys, hey, it's Guildmaster today with the Kilt here. We're doing something like a little casual. We're doing a casting couch, so to speak. That's actually on the Patreon. You can watch that. So now we're doing a little discussion video. Dramatic Points is finally launched the rest of the way on
Forces.
The Forces, so that's kind of cool. But we want to do something like kind of over what we feel like the top 5 IFVs are in the game. And for those that don't know, obviously if you're watching this, you know, but infantry fighting vehicle. So with that being said, we're not covering any APCs, stuff like that. We do have a couple honorable mentions.
I mean, you could cover most of the APCs in the book with just one mention, which is the M113.
Pretty much it, because most of Warsaw has IFVs.
Yeah.
The probably 2 honorable mentions for IFVs people will probably bring up would be the Grizzly. Believe it or not, it has a 50 cal machine gun.
Yeah.
I'm counting IFVs as cannons.
Yeah, I was going to go tracked vehicle, armor greater than 2 in the game, and then anything bigger than a 14.5.
Well, yeah, as I would say, the other honorable mention would be the BTR-60. That seems to be a lot what we see, obviously, right now. That seems to be the current Warsaw Pact group.
Cheap, effective.
Yeah. So, but we're going to keep it to within the realms of cannons. Those are probably 2 honorable mentions. I guarantee someone might bring them up in the comments. It's really interesting because, like, looking at a lot of the IFVs side to side, like the Pruett, the Nord 124.
The Nordic one, the NM135 for the Norwegians, and then the PBV 302 for the Swedes.
Right. A lot of them have the same stat block, which is like a 3-2-1 with like some sort of 20 millimeter cannon.
Yeah. Then you start getting to some of them cannot get up armored, mostly the Warrior and then the Bradley. You're the only 2 that I know of that get the up armor.
Right. So we're going to keep it with like basically just saying a block of vehicles, and then we're not going to go over nations because obviously the Finnish BMP 1 and 2 is vastly superior to the Soviet or even East German BMP 1s or 2s.
And that comes down to the nation's skill.
Right, skill, stats, even some cross checks a lot of times.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep it out of that realm. Probably one other honorable mention, which we don't have a lot of experience with, is the one French wheel transport that you can mount a cannon on.
The VAV T2013.
Yeah, you can mount a cannon on that.
See, the problem with that is, though,
it's wheeled, and I don't feel it's like fits the IFV theme of being tracked.
That, and it's really more of a fire support vehicle.
Okay.
So, because I know you can take it in the formation to replace it.
Okay.
And that's really one of the only ones that you can actually do that with a cannon, compared to the machine guns. But then there's also the separate section you can take of it.
Okay.
And I see a lot of people, instead of running, taking one in the group, they take the section.
Okay. So I guess that would be another honorable mention. Also, this is filmed from a live studio audience. Our own buddy Paul's here. He's doing technical stuff for us.
He's Capto, so shh.
And but we're going to kind of lead off. We're going to lead off with the first one we think, which is the BMP 1, which, as most people know, that's what's led the whole IFV phenomenon, or like the premise of when it first came out. But in the game, it's like statted 2-2-1. It has a 13 main gun.
Is it 13 or 14? It's 73 millimeter.
I think it's 13.
It's the same gun that's actually on the Scimitar. No, sorry, Scorpion. The British little recce vehicle.
It's not the same gun. It's probably the same strength.
Well, yeah, same strength gun. Let's see here.
But and it comes with like a machine gun, stuff like that.
AT-12 actually.
Oh, I gave a little bit more. So that's like the baseline to go off of, and like I think it's like cross 3, some stuff like that.
Yeah, depending on the nation, yeah.
So that's probably the base.
Really, unless it's a wheeled vehicle, usually it's a cross 3 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a cross 2, it's usually a main battle tank. When it goes to 3, it's a main battle tank with up armor, or it's more of an IFV.
It's probably easiest for us to cover the Warsaw first, since there's actually far fewer IFVs for Warsaw.
Yeah, there's
the BMP 2.
There's 5 of them. You got the BMP 1, the BMD 1, the BMP 2, the BMD 2, and then the BMP 3.
I thought the BMBD2 was. I thought there only came in the one with the 30 millimeter.
No, I do. If memory serves me, let's check the forces. But I don't have that book right now.
Because like I would kind of. The only reason I'm not really lumping the VDV transports, the only difference between them, besides having more speed, and everything else is exactly the same, except for the side armor's 1 instead of 2.
Yeah.
And I kind of was leaving them off to the side. I guess we can consider them in there because there is arguments for why they're a little bit better than the originals because they're a hair faster.
Yeah, I mean, they're a lot faster. They are a lot lighter, though, armor-wise. It's 2-2-1.
That's what I'm saying. Like, where all the BMP 1s and 2s are 2s, that's 2-1. Because if you go to the BMP 2, you have a better missile, you have the chain gun, and really then that comes into you see a lot more BMP 2s nowadays because they're in competitive play because they have a better gun basically.
Well, yeah, because a lot of vehicles do have things that defeat heat, and or you're not going to use them the way you think you can use them,
and that's why I rank the BMP 1 as low as it is.
Yeah.
Because like its gun is pretty weak. If you have anything that deals with heat, okay, it's probably ineffective.
Yeah, it's the same strength as the law for most NATO nations.
Then we go up to after those two, we have the BMP 3.
Yeah, I don't like the BMP 3. To me, it has too many gadgets for the vehicle.
Well, I mean that was the premise behind it. It was supposed to be a full support vehicle.
Yeah.
So you have the Spandrel missile. I think it's a 22, I believe. A missile.
I do believe so. Yeah.
So you have the missile that can fire on the move. Now, granted, its min range is 16, I believe.
Yeah, 16 to 40. Stabber, the 1810 Stabber.
Okay, so you have that. It has like 4 guns. It has a 100 millimeter gun. It has a 30 millimeter gun. It has a machine gun.
And then the missile on top.
Right.
Yeah.
So like it's pretty much the pinnacle. It's a front armor 5, I think 3 on the side.
Yeah, 5, 3, and 1.
Okay, so like it's really kind of the high end for the Soviets. So that's what we have for the Soviet breakdown. We have the 3, 2, and the 1, and you can lump the VDV also in that same category. You can argue they're slightly better.
Yeah, that comes still down to like the skill.
Right. So we're just going to lump those two with those, and then you have the BMP 1. So those categories. Now going into NATO, now granted, you have the Bradley for America. It's probably the premier one.
Yeah, the Bradley, the Warrior, the YPR 765 or the AIFVs for the Dutch and the Belgians, and then actually again I have
So
the NM 135 for the Norwegians, and then the PVV 302 for the Swedes.
So we'll work it down. So we have the Warrior and Bradley. So the Bradley up armored is the 531. Then it has a blick armor, so it basically goes to 13 versus heat.
Yes, which is really good, especially going against people that don't or can't take the RPG 7VR.
Right. So you have that, and then you have it seems like. So that's the Bradley. Then it has an AT-23 missile.
Yeah,
okay?
You get the TOW with that automatically.
Right. So the Bradley is just got a point deduction for platoon sizes. So now for a platoon of 4 Bradleys in the infantry is 11 points. It went from 15.
Yeah.
So it's a substantial reduction of points.
I like the Bradley as the best IFV all around in the game because you have the chain gun, you have the machine gun, and then you have that tow missile that can pretty much defeat anything on the board.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit more, but I feel it's competing with the BMP 3. I think the 3 is, and we'll kind of get to that. We can get what we personally feel, but so that's the Bradley. Then you have the Warrior, you know more about than I do.
The Warrior is a good little vehicle. The problem is it suffers from the British autocannon rule, as I'm calling it.
Okay.
You can't move any more than 6 inches and still use the main cannon.
Okay.
You don't get a missile on it like you do with the Bradley.
What's its armor all around?
It's 321 unarmored and 531 up armored. It still gets the applique armor.
So it basically it's like a almost a cut and paste of the Bradley.
Yes, but you have the downside of that cannon that you can't move more than 6 inches and
Okay.
fire the main gun, but it has AT-10 because it's 30 mil compared to the AT-8 of the 25 mil.
Okay. So those are kind of very similar. The French, they had the AMX-10, I believe. Or
Yeah,
the
the AMX-10P.
The P?
Because the AMX, you gotta make sure you throw a number behind it, otherwise you don't know which one you're talking about.
No, the French in their number system.
Yes.
And what's weird, well, and I'm going to get into this, it feels like from now, when we talk about the rest of IFVs for NATO, a lot of them share the same stat block. 3-2-1.
Yeah.
Either strength 7. Well, other than West Germany, which
Yeah.
West Germany we'll get into.
Yeah.
But
so the AMX-10P is 2-2-1.
Okay.
Stats.
So it's 2-2-1 with the auto cannon on top.
And it has a 20 millimeter gun on it.
Right.
So it's only AT-6.
Right.
So it's not as capable as killing certain vehicles.
Well, like it. So once you go from it, then we're going to go. I guess you have what's the Dutch and the Belgians?
The YPR 765, same gun as the Bradley.
Okay.
But again, it's still 3-2-1.
That's what the Cleric runs. So you have those,
which is it's the FMC version of the M113.
Okay.
It's no, we have M113 at home.
Okay. So you have that, and then you have going forward, you have the other version of that, which is the Nordic. Which it's basically a 113 chassis.
Yeah.
With a little 20 millimeter turret on top.
Yeah, same gun that's on. So a lot of them share the same gun, especially the Nordic ones share the same gun that's on the German Lukes or the Marder 1.
So, and there's two flavors of that. There's the actual 113 chassis, which is like the 117 they call it, I believe.
Yeah, I forget exactly what.
And then you have
the
135. Yeah, which is it looks like a 113, but it has some weird doors in the front.
Yeah, and it has the autocannon on it.
It's also one of those models that's resin pewter only. So it also has an autocannon. But if you look at it, and I would say the Mortar 1, even though the Mortar 1 is a 3-2-1, it has a 20 or 25 millimeter chain gun.
20 mil. 20 mil.
So them block of vehicles, the only advantage in that block is the Martyr 1, I believe, because it's faster.
Yeah.
It's
a leopard chassis, pretty
right.
much.
So like game stat wise, it's actually faster. It has like cross country of 20, I believe. Like it's fast.
It also gets the Milan mount.
Right.
So you have to have infantry mounted in the vehicle to be able to fire the Milan.
And I don't want to, because also the AMXP also has a Milan mount.
Yes. And that's usually, the Americans are really the only ones that have a built-in missile system next to the gun. Everybody else either gets no missile, or they have to have the Milan.
At least NATO. Because also I think the Martyr 1 also has that. Well, you just said that. And then the next thing is the Marauder 2.
Yes. Marauder 2. It's got either a 35 mil or a 50 mil cannon.
So this, obviously, it has a front armor of 6.
Yeah.
I think it's side armor 3 or 4.
6, 4, 1.
And then you have the two crazy guns. And what makes it really good, its firepowers are 4. So when you hit and you penetrate or do whatever, it's firepower 4. As opposed to everything we've mentioned thus far in NATO, it's firepower 5.
Yeah.
Which is big because, as we talk about, whenever you're going against Warsaw, you have no problem bailing them out or penning them.
But trying to get that hard kill.
It's actually killing them is where you have the hard part. Where the Marauder 2, firepower 4 is huge. You'll drop them that way.
That's half a dice.
Yeah. So with all that being said, we've gone over kind of like the NATO block, which a lot of them are kind of cut and pasted the same.
Yeah.
And then you have the Warsaw Pact. Okay. And you're saying, I guess, for you, Kill, how would you rank 1 through 5? Like 5, or I guess 5 being your best, 1 being your best, doesn't matter.
So number 1 being the best would probably be the Bradley, just for the chain gun, built-in missile.
Okay.
Decent skill rating, still hit on a 4+.
Well, I'm trying to stay away from skills because.
That's how I was trying to rank it. Yeah, you still have decent skills.
Okay.
But it's still hit on the 4+. Decent armor. Not that bad point-wise.
Okay.
You can field them as both the up-armored and non-up-armored, and then I know it's separately, but then you also can actually add a section of them on as a scout section.
Yeah, it's 6 points or 5 points for 2. They're a little bit overpriced right now. They weren't adjusted in the dynamic points.
But that's where that's what I'd put there. The gun's still decent. It can still kill a lot of things.
Okay.
Especially those, the BMP BTR spam. You can still kill them, or at least knock them and bail them.
Okay.
You get that TOW 2 missile right out the gate.
Okay.
Which again can kill off almost every main battle tank on the board, or at least cause it to bail.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 2, I probably would do the BMP3. Again, you do have the multiple guns. I don't like having, 3 different guns to do the job.
Yeah.
But each gun is supposed to have its own separate role. That 100mm cannon is supposed to be use to kill infantry or dig them out.
Right.
You can't really replicate that in the game.
Okay.
Because it's not real life. Your models aren't going to get scared.
Right.
Whereas if you hit beside a foxhole with a 100mm gun, normally the guys are going to try and either sit there in the foxhole and not run, or run, or something like that.
Okay.
Then probably going on to either the Warrior or the BMP-2. Because you still get the 30mm cannon, still good anti-tank rating of 10.
Okay.
But the problem with the Warrior, you don't get the missile. So that kind of does take it down. The BMP-2, you get the missile, but it's got a minimum 16-inch range.
Okay.
So are you using your infantry fighting vehicle to kill tanks or to kill infantry?
Okay.
And number 5, that is a hard one. It's probably one of the other ones with that 20mm gun on it.
Okay.
Just because it can't do as much to things. If you do it right, you can get Warriors or Bradleys or something on the side of a tank, you can kill it.
Okay, because the one reason I'm trying to stay away from obviously, like we said, skills change the game dramatically for vehicles. And then, because with BMP 3s, you have shock and regular, which are different. And then even the VDV, BMP 1s and 2s, you have different skills. I guess for me, if I was looking at the vehicles objectively, I would probably rank Marauder 2, just because of when it comes to like fighting the other IFVs, depending on who gets to go first, you have a higher likelihood of killing them with your gun.
Yeah.
So I'm saying Marauder 2 would be number 1. Number 3 would probably be the BMP 3. The fact you can move with the missile, so like you have the range, and you do have the plethora of guns. So if you're fighting other IFVs, you have the 30mm. Infantry, you can use the 100 or the machine gun. Probably the 100 if they're dug in. And then I would end up, as much as I want to make the Bradley, I think the Bradley would come into number 3, and only slightly better than I think the BMP-2. The reason I think the BMP-2 is slightly better than the Bradley, that 30mm gun going up to a 10, even with the up-armored Bradleys, you need a 5 or a 4 to equal. So, depending who gets to shoot first, the granted, they're firepower soul 5 for both.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel that the BMP-2 would have a slightly better edge. Yeah, you have more shots, but I think it has a slightly better edge when it comes to like punching through. Missiles, yeah, you can knock out stuff heavier, but I think it's 20 or 21 for the Spandrel for that.
I believe it's 21.
So it's still got a very comparable missile, and probably 4th in the whole line of transports. It could be any one of the NATO / insert here.
Yeah.
Probably, I would probably say the Martyr 1 just edges out the other ones because it is a little bit faster. But like I said, the BMP, but honestly, BMP 2 I feel and the Bradley are really close to be interchangeable with that. And I give the edge to the Bradley because I run more Bradleys, but they're pretty close.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I run the Warrior, and you see how low I put them.
Right.
And the biggest thing with the Warrior is that gun.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, and obviously if we were talking about like nation IFVs, like skill changes everything. Like we said, like if you're running a finished BMP-2, it's going to be leaps and bounds over anything Warsaw Pact BMP-2.
Let alone anything in the Arab nations.
Right. And then if you throw in shock, like A BMP3 is still really good, but you make them shock.
Yeah, my problem with running a shock is you're trying to run a Soviet force as NATO, which the whole point of the Soviet force is you have the numbers to be able to do it. Well, shock just adds way too much point cost to it.
Well, remember, they're right now in the game, we don't have... Because back then, you had your Soviet units and you had your Red Banner / Guard units.
Yeah.
Which were supposed to be more elite Soviet. So I feel shock is that kind of a nod to having the Guard units. Mm-hmm. So maybe...
Yeah, the shock and the Afghansky.
Right.
Those are the guys who are very oorah about everything.
Yeah. So, like, that's... Plus, too, almost all Afghansky had combat experience from Afghanistan. You know what I mean? So, it's, combat experience is a lot more. So, with that being said, that's kind of our picks. Pretty similar.
Yeah.
And again, not adding into nationality stuff or like rules or mostly skill and everything. We're trying to be pretty objective when it comes to vehicle stats.
Yeah. Like I said, all the vehicles are pretty well stat. They all have roughly the same. I think the highest you said was 6 Renault armor.
Which would be the Marauder 2.
Yeah. But the problem with, though, is a lot of the better IFVs, or getting into the better parts of the IFVs, the up armoring of them, you run into that deep reserves rule.
Well,
that hampers that a lot.
Well, it's a problem, and we've talked to, believe it or not, a Battlefront about it. Like we've emailed, we've been asked, and we've been polled at certain events I've gone to. We've been polled, and this is probably a quick little side note before we kind of end the video. Is deep reserves is a holdover from Flames, where a lot of times tanks 5 was considered a tank. Unfortunately, now, obviously, in the 80s, armor's better, technology's better, so you can have a heavier front armor, and it really hampers your force if you're running up-armored Bradleys, BMP3s, Marauder 2s. And I actually think Deep Scattered is actually armor 4, maybe?
It's armor 5 or more.
Is it 5?
Yeah, so, it's deep scattered. You get deep scattered, deep delayed, and then deep flanking.
So hopefully they adjust that and maybe knock it down to like 3s or something, or
put the caveat in there for transport.
Well, that's the other thing, and it'd be a fundamental change of the rules because everything's considered a tank unit as of right now for a lot of things, and if there's really no good separation between transport, like an IFV transport versus a tank, they're all considered tanks. So until they do that, you just have to kind of deal with it, or hope you don't get boned by that.
Well, you deploy your infantry on the table and hope to God you can bring your IFVs and that in when you need them to.
Right. But all right, guys, this is the Guildmaster with the kilt for Heavy Metal Wargaming. If you guys like what we do, like, share, subscribe, all that BS. But in the comments below, tell us if you think we're wrong, like how you would rank it. Obviously, like what you think would be 1 through 5. Give us a reason. Tell us that we're stupid or we're right. Who knows?
And if you like these more, tell us what you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah, we could do definitely more. Just let us know. Until next time, always seize the objective.
Peace out.